Salam everyone. Talk about the four quls in the Quran versus the five quls in the Quran. Now, these are the four quls are pretty popular among all Muslims wherever they are, and in fact, all children are taught these four quls from the very early on childhood. And of course, they don't know anything, but they're just taught and made to memorize these four quls in order to seek protection. Now, these four quls have been so popular that everyone knows them by heart. They're pretty easy to remember. Of course, since they're taught almost to every child in the Muslim world, everyone knows them. But what's interesting about my research, and if you don't know my work and my research, I'm a PhD, I'm a scholar. I do research in the Quran, and I have been doing this for the last almost 8 to 10 years now. And my goal or my research in the Quran is to approach the Quran as a complete book of guidance, right? So instead of bringing in external text into the Quran and trying to interpret the Quran, I look at the Quran itself as a book with all the answers, and that's what the book claims also, right? The Quran claims to be complete, so I treat the book accordingly. So my research, of course, carry on. If you have not looked at my earlier lessons or lectures, feel free to browse through all of these lectures. I'm sure you'll find them interesting, and feel free to comment also. All right, so coming back to the four quls versus the five quls, right? So they're not four quls in the Quran, but there are five. So let me first go through quickly the four quls, and then I'm going to talk about the fifth one, right? Since we only know the four ones, right? Because they're popular and we're taught, the Muslims are taught four quls in the Quran. So the Surah 114 is one of the quls, right? So it's Surah An-Nas, right? Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas starts with that. So every surah that starts with the word qul, which means say thou, right? Allah is instructing the Prophet to say, right, to the people or whoever. So there's one surah that starts with the word qul, which is An-Nas, Surah 114. The other surah that starts with the qul is Al-Falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, which starts with the qul as well. And then the third surah that starts with the word qul is Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul huwallahu ahad, which is 112, right? Surah number 112, right? So these are the three. And then the fourth one is up above, Surah 109, al-kafiroun, Qul ya ayyuhal kafiroun. It also starts with the word qul. Now, of course, these are the four most popular, quls that we're taught. The fifth qul that we're not taught, right, typically, is Surah number 72, which is Al-Jinn. Now, this surah also starts with the word Al-Qul. Okay, so let me first quickly recap. So it's Surah 114, Surah 113, going backwards, Surah 112, Surah 109, and then of course the Surah number 72 of the Quran also starts with the word Qul. So let's explore this further and see what's really going on. I'm not going to interpret or give you the translations at this point in time. This lesson is not based on giving you the translations, but more importantly, how traditions, cultures, or customs, and the religions, so-called, right, teach everyone in one frame of mind. So, and they sometimes miss out on one of the important surahs, which is Surah number 72, also starting with the word Qul. So there are now five quls in the Quran. There are five surahs in the Quran that starts with the word qul, by the way. Out of the 114 surahs, right, total surahs, there are only five. So the question is, why only four, right? My focus here is to let you know that there are five quls, right? So I'm going to explore the the four quls you probably, if you're a Muslim, you already know. Not, I've mentioned the surah numbers, and you can kind of look them up. They're pretty straightforward, short surahs. The Surah Al-Jinn, let me see if I have this open here. This surah also starts with the word qul, say. It has been revealed to me that a group of jinn listened and said, indeed, we have heard an amazing Quran. Now, this word Al-Jinn is typically translated as Al-Jinn, which means something that, is out of this world, okay, for now, in layman terms. But let me go to Wikipedia and just kind of take a look at the root word or the etymology of this particular word. So in Wikipedia, jinn is an Arabic collective noun. So those of you know grammar would know what that is. And it's derived from the Semitic root of J and N, right? Or Jim, Nun, Nun. Primary meaning is to hide or to conceal. That's the primary meaning of the word. Let me give an example. So if before giving birth to a child, for example, right? These some languages use the word jana, right? Which means again, the child is hidden in the mother's womb, so you're not able to see it. That's why it's used the same root word, J and N, right? Or Jim, Nun, and Nun. No, Urdu, right? So here we understand that the meaning of the word jinn is to hide or to conceal something that you cannot see or something is hidden from you. Other meanings, of course, to the word include the Arabic majnoon, which is possessed, generally insane or out of the mind, right? Also Jannah, which is heaven, right? Once again, it's the same root word, Noon, Noon, right? And used for Jannah, which is the gardens, right? And then, of course, the hiding or concealing as well as being possessed. So there are multiple meanings. What's interesting here is that my research found this word. What I did was I looked over the word al-jinn in the Quran, and this is what I found. So let me bring up my results here. So there are 22 times this word is being used in the Quran. So I've listed all of those verses that contains this word al-jinn. Okay, so it's Surah 6 100, Surah 6 112, Surah 6 128, and so on. So there are 18 or 22, I'm sorry, instances of the word jinn, the root word, being used in the Quran. What's even more interesting is that the word, wherever al-jinn, you'll notice majority of the times, almost all the time, this word al-jinn is used with al-ins. So I looked up this particular word in the Quran, and what I found was this word al-ins was to be found 18 times, right? So there are 18 instances of the word al-ins in the Quran. And what's really interesting is that this word al-ins is always used with al-jinn. Okay, so they always come together. So pretty much all the verses that you listed here, I'm going to provide this document if you need the discussion area of this document so that now finally the context of all of these verses. Again, I'm not going to go through all these verses. You're welcome to take a note of these and just kind of look up the evidence yourself. But all the context of all the interpretation of al-jinn comes with al-ins. It simply implies that al-ins talks about people in general, right? Followers, for example. And then al-jinn implies the leaders. Okay, so these are also men. So therefore, let me give you an example from the Quran. Open this up. This is Surah number 6, verse 128. So just one example or one of the instances are provided. Surah again 6, Surah Al-An'am, the cattle, verse 128. And the day he gathers them all together, O congregation of jinn, you have taken many among mankind. Ya ma'shar al-jinn, qad istakthhartum min al-ins. So they're saying that, or on the congregation of jinn, that you have taken many among mankind. Well, of course, if jinn is not to be seen, right, or if it's something hidden, or it's a different species, for example, how can they take among men? It continues, and their allies among men will say, "O Lord, we benefited each other." So the allies among men, how can you be an ally of jinn if it's you can't see it, right? This implies that jinns are the leaders among the men, and you'll notice that al-ins is used always with al-jinn. So these two words always go together. And once again, since I'm not going into detail about grammar and the meanings and the singular, plural at this point in time, just kind of overview of, we started off with the 4 quls. Well, they're not 4, they're 5 quls. And this is the 5th one that I'm talking about, just giving you a little elaborate structure on the word al-jinn. So the allies among men will say, "O Lord, we benefited each other, but we reached our term which thou deferest for us." He will say, "The fire is your dwelling." Continues on. So just give an idea, right? The context here is pretty clear that Al-Jinn comes always with al-Ins, right? Now, this implies that these leaders sometimes are hidden because even in today's world, you don't get to meet your leader or maybe the president or whoever that is or some big shot that you don't know, but you just follow their instructions. Maybe you hear their words or you see them or you not, but you don't meet them, right? Or sometimes you don't even know who these people are, but you're just following things blindly. And that's what I mean by we teach our children four goals. Well, we don't really know why we're teaching them or what's the purpose. And they're not four goals, by the way, they're five. So just wanted to quickly, it's a short lesson, wanted to let you know that there are five goals. So now, if you live in the Muslim world, teach your children five goals in the Quran and make sure you go through all of these. And I also gave you a teaser of al-ins and al-jinn, the context of this. So go through all of the 22 instances of al-jinn and 18 instances of al-ins in the Quran or wherever they come together. You'll notice the context speaks about al-jinn being leaders of men, right? So they're leaders and al-ins are the followers. So I hope this helped. Just wanted to quickly bring about the meaning of jinn, the root word, and then the concept of four quls versus five quls. Wassalamu alaikum.